Hello! So, I have been teetering on the edge of a reading slump because I am doing a reading project that is involving a lot of long books that are out of my comfort zone, and therefore they are dangerously close to putting me in a reading slump. So, I decided to employ my best reading slump fixing strategy, which is going to the library and picking up a bunch of books that were not on my TBR, that I had no immediate plans to read, but that sound interesting and are very, very short, and I am excited to read them right away. We will go through what I got. I got 2 Samanta Schweblin books. This is an Argentinian author, so this is going to actually probably be the start of my reading around the Spanish world series, but I got Fever Dream and Mouthful of Birds. We Had to Remove This Post by Hanna Bervoets. The Swimmers by Julie Otsuka. Lemon by Kwon yeo-sun. And Other Disasters by Malka and Paradais by Fernanda Melchor. This one, Toby's Book Corner talked about. This is the author of Hurricane Season, which I also want to read. So I actually already have read 2. I read Fever Dream by Samantha Schweblin, and this is amazing. I loved this so much. So this is incredibly surreal, kind of as you might guess from the title. The title is very accurate, although the title in Spanish is different. It is The Rescue Distance, which you understand when you read the book. This is a very, very multi-timeline. The whole book is dialogue between 2 characters, just kind of filling in a story, circling back, filling in details. It is telling the story of a mother of a young girl who goes to the countryside and meets the mother of a young boy, and they're supposed to be on vacation, and something kind of sinister starts brewing. You're not kind of sure what's real and what's not real. It is very much up my alley because it's talking about environmental issues, environmental devastation, potential contamination and poisoning of many people through industry, through agriculture, through unknown sources. I've already probably said more than I should have about this, but if you like at all experimental, at all stream of consciousness, at all weird books, then I highly recommend this. Horror is probably an accurate genre for this, but it's more creepy or kind of sinister, kind of brewing, disturbing than I would say horrific. So if you scare easily, I think this is still probably doable, but loved this, can't wait to read the rest of her work. And next I read And Other Disasters by Malka. This is a short story collection. It does have a few poems in it as well, but it's primarily short stories. I had never heard of this author, never heard of this collection, and I almost didn't pick it up, but I am so glad that I did. The first story that I read, I was kind of like, okay, sure, whatever. This is like sci-fi, speculative, and the first short story just kind of reminded me a lot of Black Mirror, but without really a perceptible point to me. I still don't really know what the point of that story was. I don't know if there was one or not. The first few stories were just kind of interesting thought experiments, I think, kind of potential futures or, something like that. But a little bit before halfway, this one really hit its stride, and oh my gosh, I loved some of these stories. My 2 favorites were The Divided and Saint Path. So The Divided is about borders, clearly U.S. and Mexico. I don't think it ever says, but it's clearly the U.S.-Mexico border. And basically a wall just appears at the border. I thought that one was so beautiful, so haunting. And then my other favorite story was Saint Path, which is about an artificial emotions entity. So instead of artificial intelligence, it's artificial emotions. And it kind of discusses what it means to be human, whether something like that could be more human than actual humans. What does it mean to have emotions, to have empathy, to care about how things impact other people, to, value the interests of other people. It was just fascinating. There were several other ones that I did really like in here, but those two were the standouts for me. So this author does also have a trilogy, which is supposed to be kind of sci-fi, political, thriller. So I did reserve the first one of those from the library as well, because this was such a surprising hit. So I think next I am going to read We Had to Remove This Post. Okay, I have just managed to finish this before it gets too dark to read out here. So this is We Had to Remove This Post, which is about a fictional account of a content moderator for clearly Facebook. It's not obviously said that it's Facebook, but it is. And I think that this was partially inspired by or based on an article that I will be looking up when I get home about PTSD in social media content moderators. So essentially their job is anytime something is reported to view the content in its entirety and determine whether it should be left up or removed, and if it should be removed, why. And there are very, very specific criteria that are very seemingly sort of arbitrary, but are extremely, apparently, strictly adhered to. And so this person is kind of like out-of-life options in a way, and has had a lot of really exploitative jobs previously, and so they're kind of primed to be unable to turn down or get out of this job. And it's several of the other people there are kind of struggling in various different ways with, obviously the extreme violence and sadism and hopelessness and terribleness of the types of content that gets reported. There are definitely content warnings for this. I wouldn't say that it's extremely graphic, but it does describe multiple very disturbing pieces of content in, kind of clinical detail. So I would say definitely look up content warnings if that's a concern. I'm sorry that my camera is struggling so much in the darkness. This didn't really have a point necessarily. I think it is very thought-provoking and important for everyone to think about the fact that not only are those things about social media impacting all social media users to some extent, most of us are not seeing the kind of content that a content moderator is seeing, but we do see some disturbing content just by nature of being on social media, and the fact that social media existing creates and necessitates a job like this, and that human beings have to be put through that job in order for our social media platforms to exist, is a very, very disturbing, and I don't know, it's something I hadn't honestly thought of before. And this didn't really go into it, but I think something that should be discussed more is the fact that since it is, just humans doing this, and humans are biased and raised up in a certain set of morals and opinions, that content is generally moderated much more harshly for Black creators, different types of oppressed creators, because malintent is more likely to be read into their posts than, for example, white people's posts. So anyway, that wasn't discussed here, but I think it would have been interesting if it had been discussed here. But this was a very tiny book. It was more about the mental toll of seeing that kind of content, of seeing misinformation constantly. Very interesting. I would like to maybe see something more fleshed out about this, but I think this was a good starting point, maybe. Okay, another book down for the weekend. This was Lemon by Kwon Yeo-sun. This is kind of a murder, a little bit of a psychological mystery kind of thing, but it was more so about trauma, I would say. An 18-year-old girl was murdered, and they have kind of two main suspects, but they do not have enough evidence to really pursue either one of them, and so the murder just kind of goes unsolved. You are following the girl's sister as well as a few other characters that were kind of involved. So there are 8 little chapters spanning from 2002 to 2019. They are from several different perspectives and in several different formats. It is sad, but not, I wouldn't say like extremely emotional. Like I would say there's some amount of emotional distance there. It's not exactly suspense, but you are still very like drawn in and want to know what happened. I really enjoyed it. It was worth the read, but I don't think it will be a favorite or anything like that, but it was a good read. I have technically 3 books left. I was not really intending to read Mouthful of Birds this weekend because I'm going to read the Spanish book along with it. So I have The Swimmers and Paradais. So we will see if I'm able to finish those. It is Sunday morning and I have a birthday party to go to this afternoon at a park. So we will see if I'm able to make time to finish these 2 this weekend. Okay, so I have just finished Paradais by Fernanda Melchor, and wow, I knew that this was a very messed up book from reviews that I have watched of it, but it is, yes, very, very messed up. This is about kind of some of the issues of, I don't even want to say toxic masculinity because it's like very extreme, but some of the heritage of violence and incredible pain and unhappiness and everything of men and everyone in the story. There is like every ism you could ever think of in this book. Definitely sexism, very, very prominently. Misogyny is every single sentence. Classism, colorism, racism, homophobia, anti-fat bias. There is so much anti-fatness in this book. One of the main characters is fat, and the narrator is extremely anti-fat, and so there is a lot of that. I wouldn't say it is presented without comment, all of these things, because that makes it sound like it's gratuitous in some way, and it's not. But it is kind of really showing you into someone's mind. So obviously they are not really critiquing themselves or having a lot of self-awareness. So it is in a way presented without comment, but it's certainly not condoned in any way. But definitely massive trigger warnings in this for almost anything that you could think of. So look that up if that is a concern. I think that this is a good insight into hopelessness of class and poverty, of anger, and just deep, deep unhappiness, partially due to social, political, personal situations. I don't think it's setting out to send a message. I think it's setting out almost to be more of an expose, kind of, to shed light on the topic, if that makes sense. I do not fully know how I feel about this book yet. I do not regret reading it at all, and I do think that I will read Hurricane Season as well. I would say, if it's something that is of interest to you at all, then I would look into it. So the last book that I have is The Swimmers, and I will not have time to finish this today, I don't think, because it's already like 9 p.m., but I am going to get a start on it, and then hopefully I'll just be able to finish it after work tomorrow, and that will round us out. So I finished The Swimmers. At what cost? Emotionally. This was so sad. I probably should have known that, I guess. I have read When the Emperor Was Divine, which was also very sad, but I never read the full description of this. I only heard the blurb that it was about a crack that shows up in like a community swimming pool, but only the first like maybe 50 or so pages are about that. After that, it becomes the story of, well, and her mother is in that story, but it becomes the story of her mother who has dementia and eventually has to go into a home. And wow, this was so sad. Incredibly beautiful. The first part about the pool is very funny as well. Very much like commentary on humanity and on kind of like transient friendships that you have, like camaraderie that you have in situations like regular pool goers that are always together, or like I think coworkers can be that way, or just areas of your life where you're constantly around a group of people that you maybe wouldn't otherwise have been, and the ways in which that can be so accepting and such a valued thing. And then, you know, we took a very depressing turn from there, but incredible, absolutely well worth the read, but make sure that you're in a space emotionally where you can do it. I have not read Buddha in the Attic, and that's her other book, and I really, really want to, especially after reading this, because I think she's one of those people that will certainly be considered a classic very soon. She should be considered a modern classic writer. So that was the last of the books on my impromptu reading slump busting library haul. So 6 books in 4 days. I'm going to return these to the library now. My next reading adventure, this very exciting package that I got yesterday, Babel by R.F. Kuang, the author of the Poppy War trilogy. I ordered the special edition because I love this cover. It does have the regular cover as well. So I am so excited to get to this. It is a chunky one, so I don't know how quickly I will read it. I don't want to rush it, but I am very glad that I had this weekend of just kind of, you know, going with the flow and getting through a lot of really, really amazing books. All of these were so good. Like, honestly, I recommend all of these. Probably all of them would be, if I did star ratings, all of them would be 4 or 5 stars. So, yeah, I will see you in the next one.